Hello, everyone. It's Friday. Yes, indeed, Friday. Half of the month. Okay. It's September 15, 2023. We just cut September in half. We'd like to welcome you to our presentation here tonight in the Issues Room, Volcano Shelton with you. I'll be joined shortly by Alphonso Nyenuh. Moses Sandy is out of state in Minnesota at the ALJA, the Association of Liberian Journalists in the Americas National Convention taking place this weekend. So Alfonso and I will be teaming out here tonight, and we just like to welcome you, our viewers, wherever you are, to this 185th broadcast here in the Issues Room. The Issues Room is the alternative social media platform emanating out of Liberia to discuss the things that matter to our country, the African continent, and the diaspora. What we do is to enlighten. We are a social media platform that call a spade a spade. We look at the issues, we discuss the issues, we bring experts here on the platform, discuss things as well, and we just talk about it. Even in our chat room, many of our viewers who provide the viewership to us sometimes weigh in on these conversations. And so it's good to be back. You can't ask for more. The reason why we're here every Tuesday and Friday is to discuss Liberia, particularly because those of you who are Liberians, who've come from Liberia, who are in Liberia, who are spread in the diaspora, want to know what's happening in your country. And so as a result, many social media platforms are out here, to name a few, the Spoon Network, Prophet Key, like him or hitting. We have, LRN TV, the Liberia Radio Network, Liberia Radio and Television Network. We have Focus on Liberia. Now you have the Closing Argument, which is also one of the newest platform. You have my brother Ashford Gali with Bridge Radio and Bridge TV. You have SKTV. You have I believe there's just so many and Yesende Yesende rather Weah also have one. I think it's called Southern Africa or something like that. I can't get it right. And you have Lofa Julius. So you have so many people doing this. There's one called The Bottom Line that just came out with my man Linfo Gore, my former colleague who is probably in Norway. So many people are involved in discussing Liberia. And this is not about competition. This is about everyone having, a part to play in showing that our country is shaped in the direction that we hope for it. Um, we have the sitting government and we have oppositions who are about to go to elections come October 10th. And that's days away. But with everything we continue to hear, we're not sure how these elections going to go. The Elections Commission is arguing that they have not been given the amount to hold this election. The money has been given in parts, and in fact, from where they stand, they're not even sure that if these elections go to runoff, that they're able to foot the cost. So that's why the incumbent is saying one round, one round, one round, and they're being very, very, very optimistic and emphatic that they're going to be a one round. So what are they depending on to declare one round victory, right? Uh, in the midst of all of this, with the Elections Commission saying that, hey, you have not given us all the monies that will prepare us even for the first round. So needless to say, we can make it to the runoff and be able to carry on runoff. So, but we see the incumbent wasting money through the campaign, regalia, uh, what they call trucking, photo trucking, busing, giving food, giving cash. Just so much happening, right? Then on the other hand, we have the opposition who are also campaigning. And it seems as though they're all just in campaign mode and preparation mode, but they're not worried about October 10th and what's going to happen October 10th. And that's the concern that I have, because during these periods leading up to October 10th, a lot of things have happened. A lot of things. Violence, foul play, um, lack of security to protect everyone across the board, serious accident causing death, partisans dying. So many things are happening, but they're not concerned about these things. They're only looking at October 10th. So how prepared is the Elections Commission, the National Elections Commission, to hold this election comes October 10th? And that is why we're going to be looking at some of those things tonight, Alphonso and myself. I see he keep bouncing in and up, and I'm hoping that he gets stabilized in these next few minutes. But that's what we're going to be talking about here tonight, looking at the Elections Commission, its preparedness with an inadequate uh, funding that it has received, coupled with whether it's prepared for a second round, the runoff. And this is critical. We can't sit here and let people start telling us one round, and we say, oh yeah, opposition could win one round, Mr. Weah can win one round, when in fact 3 successive elections there has not been one round. Mr. Weah didn't come to power with one round, in as much as he claims to be the most popular man in the country. He did not make it to become president through one round. So why he's so optimistic? What this party is so optimistic that they're going to do one round? And why is the Elections Commission already preempting that we don't have it, and so we don't even want to go to a second round or a runoff? Then you also have the Supreme Court with the news of what you call Chief Justice already pre-warning oppositions that don't come here with your case. So many things. But let me bring on my man Alfonso. He's already ready for joining me here tonight. Well, my man, what on your stomach? Know him or what? Trafficking?
Oh, actually, sorry, my seat is low, so you can see it. But let me stand. Yes, what it says.
No
No
him
human,
is illegal.
no human is illegal. So that whole thing about illegal immigrants, you're illegal, you're coming to this country, blah blah blah. Yeah, that's what it's meant to us.
Between me and you, the only place where people be illegal are between heaven and hell.
Absolutely agree with you.
Because the ultimate creator gonna draw the line who goes where, right? But on earth, he created earth for all of us to traverse, go all over the place, endeavor, and live to our fullest potential. But
Absolutely.
that's the same reason why it is important for us to begin to now think that our world, the way it's structured, that we really cannot coexist. We cannot live in harmony. Look at what happened in Ukraine for nothing.
Yeah,
For nothing.
yeah.
For nothing. People dying for nothing.
For
And
power,
so yeah.
power, power, control, and domination. Exactly. But thank you, Volcano. I think this is the topic you just introduced. It's an extremely very important topic, and I hope Liberians pay attention and participate and engage in the process. Because again, I saw a video yesterday. I think it was yesterday or whatever from Freetown, Sierra Leone, with people protesting in the streets. I'm happy. Right after the Sierra Leonean election, there was, people were arrested for an alleged coup attempt. We also saw rednecks during Guinea. There was a coup after the president, went for a third term and said he won the elections.
Could you
And of
just
course,
could you just pull to your right small, just to your right, so you can see?
okay, yeah,
Go.
thank you. And then there's Burkina Faso, and there's Mali, and there's all of these, and there's Gabon, and in addition to all of the things that have been happening in Liberia itself, with election violence associated with that. So again, you're right, you're correct. We need to be careful with the trend we take. It's unfortunate that the election commission is coming and saying we don't have money to run a first round. I mean that undermines the entire process for several reasons. One, by this time, the election commission should have all of the resources that it needs to hold elections, including first round. It shouldn't be running to the government to finance ministry trying to push vouchers and all of that undermines its independence and credibility. If somebody will have to hold the purse strings, that person is likely to determine what you do if you want something from them. I think there's an old Liberian saying that somebody who controls your belly controls you, which is basically what I believe is happening. If the election commissioners want money and they have to run to finance ministry and beg for money, that means the finance ministry controls them because it holds the purse strings, and that's dangerous. Yeah, and then of course, I hope we will discuss other issues about preparedness, which doesn't just have to do with having the money, but the other aspects. Are you doing voters education? If you don't have money, and it means you're not doing voter education. All of it. I know one of the things the chair of the commission, Ms. Brown said, Mrs. Brown Lasana said the other time was, hey, you know, the way, supporters of political party are tearing other party posters, it will translate into invalid votes. I don't know what she means by that, but I think the way to approach that is not to say there will be invalid votes, is to educate people about how to vote. That is a problem. Then, of course, election monitoring, making sure that, magistrates and other people are in place. All of those things matter for free and fair elections. And again, as I said, I'll close on this and then you pick it up. Again, as I said, every time elections have not been free and fair in Africa, everywhere in the world as well, but including Liberia, we've seen violence, we've seen disruption. So we have to be careful and mindful, and I hope Liberians are paying
And I think it's a new wave. The
attention.
the outcry of the citizens against uh, people trying to usurp power and remain in power for perpetuity, to the fact that they want to even change the constitution to accommodate their aggrandizement. And I think that's dangerous. And if it's happening around right in the sub region, then Liberia also stand a chance to see a degree of violence, which we don't want. Um,
Yep.
I think we've practiced democracy for time immemorial since our independence. While it is true it may have been a one-party system for many years, up to the point where Turbo decided to open the corridors and make it multi-party, and which led to his demise on the other hand. And then here comes Samuel Doe. And I wanted to play something from Samuel Doe. I will play something from Samuel Doe just as a reminiscence of what happened after the 1985 elections. Okay, and the 1985 elections, right after that, there was an abortive invasion, if you recall, on November 12th. And then there were this national speech he came back for reconciliation and granting clemency. Do you know the name? One of the names that he called was our own media colleague, Kwame Clement. Kwame Clement.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kwame Clement and Charles Weah accordingly were the ones who interviewed the elections commissioner, Mr. Emmett Hammer,
Mm-hmm.
and who
Okay.
had disclosed that the elections was rigged. And so it was that tape,
Mm-hmm.
historically, that tape that they wanted so bad and led to Charles' death. But Kwame was able to uh, give it, like we say in Liberian term, and kept, somewhere in Haiti, or hiding rather, hid himself, and then after everything subsided, uh, he came up with his speech, uh, trying to reconcile the country. But I got something here also from Octavius Obe. So let me just read some of these things. It comes in the LBS chat room, and I thought that it kind of
Mm-hmm.
coincides with uh, the conversation here tonight. So Octavius Obe, who is also our former colleague, uh, threw something out here, say voters per county. Okay, in Monserrato County, we have 900,000 901,162 voters registered
Yep.
to vote. 901,062 162 voters. In Nyenuh County, the second is 307,254. 307,254 registered voters from Nyenuh County. Bong County is 234,787. Bong County, 234,787 registered voters. Margibi County, 185,301. 185,301 registered voters. Lofa County, 177,139 registered voters. 177,139. Grand Bassa County, 158,463 registered voters. 158,463. Then Grand Kibon County, 86,529. 86,529. Maryland County, 67,600. 67,600. Grand Jita County, 63,942 registered voters. Grand Jita County again, 63,942 registered voters. Bombing County is 63,112. 63,112 in Bombing County. Sano County, 55,579. 55,579. Bapolu County, 50,615. 50,615 registered voters from Bapolu County. The President Grand Crew County, 42,396. 42,396 from Grand Crew County. Riverside County, 39,941. 39,941 registered voters. River G County, 37,807. 37,807. That brings the total to 2,471,617 registered voters. Again, the number of people of a population speculated to be 5.2 million, only 2,471,617 people will be voting. So about 4 million plus people are now registered to vote. Registered voters by gender: women, 1,237,257 women registered to vote. So that tells you that women are vested in these elections. Again, the women are 1,237,257 women registered to vote. Men, 1,234,360 men registered to vote. Men in the context of boys, men, all voting age from 18 and upward. Again, men, 1,234,360. There were 46 presidential candidates, rather 46 political parties. 46 political parties with 20 presidential candidates. As it is right now, the voting precincts are 2,080. voting precincts across the country, and the polling places are 5,890. The polling places are 5,000 rather 890. So that's some information here to share with our audience tonight, so that people know that a majority of the Liberian people did not register. And I believe because of some of the things that happened, the irregularities, which again, I will play something from the genesis of what was happening. And you and I know with our elections, during the time people were going to register. If you recall, let me play something and then we'll come back. I'm trying to kind of set the tune, right? So you recall the story with Yaga Koluba and this girl who was at this precinct and calling Moluba Molu to send more first time voters so she could register them, right?
Absolutely.
And she,
Yes.
and I heard she died not
Yeah.
long after
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's go to that clip. So we here this morning by the Muslim so he's talking about the lady there in the bar. Yeah. So guys, I got serious evidence on the woman. Our company is on the way to election commission. This woman is in serious contact. And I think she's the person he's talking about. My name is Amos. This morning we are here at the Muslim Congress School, and so and so there there are high issues. There are issues. So Honorable Kolua, this is an alleged allegation. No, I got evidence. Don't mind communicating. Don't mind communicating with Mama Malu. I got evidence. Okay. I got evidence that she communicated with Mama Malu. So why you have been doing that? So what are you trying to say? You think what I'm saying, these people, I mean, the NEC have become or CBC and the NEC. Okay. We have been saying this for the past time, and I got evidence. There's the second evidence. The first time we were in the chat room, I put it out to the public. This time around, she added, Anthony H. Yase, I got a chat here. She's communicating with Molma Molu for them to bring the first time photo here so they can come and register here. You understand? I got the evidence here, and we'll send the evidence for election. No, we don't want election violence. Any attempt for job we have to break the election will move the horse and get him from the place here. Any attempt for job we have to break this election. That is why they have, NEC have recruit citizens. NEC have recruited citizens. I got evidence here. For actually Yase, communicating with Mona Modu for them to bring the people here so the process can go on a smooth basis. You understand what I'm saying? Our communication is on the way to election commission and they better take it serious. They better take it serious. Anybody use gun to break election will use gun to go for you. I challenge any of them. Anybody use gun, Ambassador, we have used gun to break election will use gun to go for him. Have you filed an official complaint? The complete going. Okay. It's the complete going. You understand what I'm saying? The complete is on. We will not consume the kind of thing. And you say you can win election, win it peacefully. Why you using the proper money to reduce them to beggars? Up to now, civil servants are not taking pay. People are protesting all around. We get one man that go pass around to go join and say go to advocate for Liberia. What advocacy have you come to do for Liberia? And myself, we have become an embarrassment. Why you want me done now? What I want done is all these seditions. Now they got all these seditions that they got in the NEC need to be withered out. They need to be withered out. All these seditions they got in the NEC need to be withered out. Yes, she got register here. Actually, yes. I will share it. I will share the chat with you. I will share the comment. So Alfonso, it's just what I'll consider. Go ahead on mute. It's just a reminder of where we are and the anticipation of how we have not done much to ensure that this is going to be free, fair, and credible. We are not hearing the Elections Commission because I know Facebook is here and everything trending like Bureau, all of the different platforms will be covering it. But we're not getting updates as to where we are. Again, we're ready. We have everything in place. Our vehicles, our ballot boxes, our polling stations are manned right now, protected. We have electricity. We have all the amenities in place. Very, 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 very important because, again, I said the other night, you don't want to get to the day of elections and hit a brick wall. And then you're
Yep.
looking for, fuel, you're looking for tanker generator to come like some blinking current when you're selling current to Africa. My brother. So these kinds of things are happening, and then we can go back look at more of the other things happening with respect to when the campaign was launched and how people were going at each other neck, fighting in the street, throwing stones when other people are campaigning. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. You're right, brother. And this is concerning to me, and I hope it's concerning to a lot of Liberians as well. Again, I don't want to fear monger and let people worry and create unnecessary fear, but this is not unnecessary fear. I studied a little bit of I did a little bit of peace studies, and of course democracy and elections work. And basically, what they tell you is there's a concept called early warning. So you have to be mindful of early warning signs. The early warning signs are on the wall already. I mean, just listen to the statement that Honorable Oliver. If they rig this election, we'll go to war, they use guns, we'll use guns, we'll take to the bush, we'll do whatever. That's an early warning sign that people should listen. There are a lot of other warning signs, such as what has been happening historically. And you made that point. When people feel cheated, when people go to the polls and vote, believing that their vote will matter and their vote will count. But the following day, they realize that, or they begin to believe that their vote and their effort and their desire did not count. That somebody or a group of people somehow usurped that and just made mockery and fun of them. That they just went to the polls for no reason, for nothing. People get angry. People resist. I mean, thank you for that historical perspective. November 12th, 1985, we had an invasion. People died in it. In fact, that laid the basis historically, was one of the factors that laid the basis for our civil war, in which about 300,000 people. And then, of course, local Guinea and now Sierra Leone is on the hot pot, and then, Gabon and Mali and Burkina Faso and all of those places. When you cheat people, when people feel cheated, that's exactly what it is. When people feel cheated, when people feel that you just lie to them, you just create a facade, say go vote, and somehow whoever you elect, whoever you vote for will win. And they actually vote for somebody, but then you steal the process from underneath them, they get angry. And once people get angry, you don't control what they do. They control what they do. And then, of course, there are people who take advantage of people's anger. Again, the early warning signs exist. There are a few things that are present in these countries that have had, coups or violence or whatever following elections. There's a young idle population. Young idle population. We have that. We have even more than that. Not only do we have a young idle population, we have a young population that has tasted war. A young population that has tasted war and they've seen war and they know that during war or during chaotic situations, they can get what they want. So that also is a significant warning sign that we should pay attention to. Now, we also have former warring faction generals running for offices. And one thing they still have connection with those boys and girls who fought for them. They can assemble them tomorrow if they feel cheated. That's something we need to pay attention to. And we also know generally that when elections are are not free and fair or believed not to be free and fair, people revolt. So we have that as well as one of the elements, as one of the factors, and we need to be careful. Now, is the election commission even ready? Is the process so far? Election is not just what happens on the day of voting. Election has to do with everything. That's why they call it electoral process. They don't call it election day. They
And
say
to start
election process.
to add to the premise
Yeah,
you're laying here,
yeah, yeah.
the flaw already started with the census,
Exactly.
because the census was the precursor to set the
Mm-hmm.
stage for the elections. And
Mm-hmm.
even the numbers that we heard coming out of quote unquote the southeastern bloc, look at the representation there. Donald
I
County
was yeah.
made it. I mean, I'm talking about registered voters that the way they
Mm-hmm.
upped the number in the census for the
Yeah.
southeastern region said that the Grand Crew County, the Sano, all those places grew exponentially in population.
Yeah.
Look at the
Yeah.
representation now in the registered
Yeah.
voters.
Exactly. I would say that that census they put out is not reflected in the registration. It's not very much reflected. Even though the numbers went up a little bit, but that is expected after because census are done every 10 years. These census were done more than 10 years after. So it's understand the reason we do census every 10 years is that's when you see a significant change in the population. So the population did grow. And so the Southeast did grow to some extent because people who were 12 years old when we did the last census or the last election, a good number of them now turn 18, for example. If you add six to their age or 15, six, 11. So, yes, people became of voting age and stuff. So that's understandable. But the census, probably the way the figures the census came with, were very alarming and unprofessional. Thank God it didn't significantly impact the voter registration. That proved the case that the census was significantly flawed. But I just want to give some figures here. Population by age distribution. Population by age distribution in Liberia, and I did some research. Population by age distribution in Liberia, age 15 to 64 is 57% of the population. Age 0 to 14 is 40% of the population. And age 65 and over is 3% of the population. So I did some mathematical extrapolation. I'm not good at math, forgive me for that. But when I did it, roughly 55% or 2,860,000 people became of voting age. So they were 18 and up, so they could register and vote. But only 2,498,000 people were registered. So out of 2,860,000, 2,498,000 people registered. What does that mean? 362,000 people who were eligible per age to register did not register. 362,000 people did not register. That can decide the election. That can decide the election today. And I like the numbers that our colleague gave. Monserrato is 900,000, close to a million, about half of the total registered voters. Nema is about 300,000. Bong is 200,000, followed by Mike DB and Lofa in fourth place. But even Nimba, the second highest, well, has the second highest registered vote. The unregistered voters are more than all registered voters.
And that's what I wanted to bring us to, that
Yeah,
many of the irregularities during the days of the registration for voters led to this. Because
yeah,
how can you have 5.2 million
yeah.
and almost 5 millions of the people are not registered to vote? So 2 million in small change are the ones that are going to be making the decision for the rest of the country. For you in the diaspora, for me in the diaspora, and for the people on the grounds.
Mhm.
Because I believe they did not carry on the process as prudent and succinct, credible as it should have been. Because that's an example. When someone is calling a party chairman and say, hey, hurry up, send the children here. And those
Mm-hmm.
children are going there to register. They're not from that precinct. They're not
Yep.
from that district. So
Yep.
then when they register there, they are what? Taking the space of the actual people who are resident,
Absolutely.
right, in the district.
Ab-
And that's
Yep.
why the sitting representative went there and called onto that. And what happens? Within days, weeks, she was found dead.
Yep.
Did she know
Absolutely.
something that was that she could have put out there? Did she die mysteriously? Was it natural? Was she at a point of regret? Why did I even do this? And so she
Mm-hmm.
grieved herself to death. So
Mm-hmm.
many things you can look at here. So it's just one classic example of what I'm worried about, that we're not prepared. But let me put up something here quick so you can see it. And I want to share this with the audience. Um, I'm not sure if I can. I'm trying to see if I could have.
Make it bigger, like
Yeah,
enlarge.
my man, I still practicing my little Apple thing, but anyway,
And
I will read from here so my head will be twisted. The National Elections Commission. This came out September 13th, so I'm hoping that it is this September rather. The National Elections Commission, the NEC, informs electoral stakeholders that materials for the October 10, 2023 general elections have started arriving in the country. Ballot boxes as well as yellow and gray precinct kits have arrived into the NEC Central Warehouse. Um, Additionally, the NEC has received mock sample ballots for all categories of election, President, Senate, and House of Representatives, for training purposes. Tactile ballot guides, or rather guides for the visually impaired, and assorted stationery materials for the conduct of the polls have also arrived. Additional materials will be arriving in the coming days. Also, the Commission has produced and is distributing Know Your Candidates posters as part of its civic and voter education exercise. Again, listen to this. Additional materials will be arriving in the coming days, but also the Commission has produced and is distributing Know Your Candidates posters as part of its civic and voter education exercise. Meanwhile, packaging of training materials for the October 10, 2023 general elections began on Monday, September 11, 2023, in the National Elections Commission Central Warehouse. In a related development, a training of the trainers for magisterial staff will commence on September 13, which was past Wednesday, 2023, at NEC headquarters in preparation for October 10. In addition, the NEC has commenced a series of training of the trainers workshops for agents of political parties and independent candidates for the elections. Alfonso?
Volcano, as you were going over that thing, I was just laughing. That's it. So on the 13th, they're telling us that materials have started arriving, that voter education materials have started arriving, and that's when we will start educating voters. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Election is what? October 10th. You just getting voter education materials to educate voters, and you, the chairman of the election commission yourself, has said that you have fear there will be a lot of invalid votes, and you just beginning to educate. I was coordinator for voter and civic education in the 1997 elections on behalf of the Liberia Election Chairman Natl Leah, who's the first ever homegrown um, civic and voter education observation. And we work with IFES, the International Foundation for Election System, the NDI, the NAD, etc. I, as the chair, came up with the idea. If you go to the 1997 election report by IFES, by NDI, Carter Center, and even the Election Commission, you will see that I got a letter sent. It wasn't even sent to me, it was sent to NAD and NDI. That the idea I came up with a sample ballot for candidates to be listed on a poster size sample ballot, the big poster, to be listed so voters can be educated by that, including voters who can't read the names of people, but they will see the big picture and they will also see the positioning of the candidates on the ballot. And we travel the country, we put 2,000 people around the country to educate people. I remember the NPP utilized that poster so significantly to its own benefit, also because of the placing of Mr. Taylor on that poster. Taylor was 14th. I mean, was seventh of 14 candidates. He was seventh. So they will go around with the poster. We went, and then they will use the poster and say, "You come from up seven, you come from down seven." They were giving the old people seven rights to go and vote. I'm saying, why am I saying all of this? I'm saying all of this to say that voter education has to begin soon and in earnest. To answer your question, is the election commission ready? No, it's not ready. No, it's not ready if it's just producing voter education materials. I was talking to a colleague who just went to Morgan. He said nothing on the radio, nothing in this report, nothing going around the community about voter education. And I'm afraid. And let me give you some statistics why I'm afraid. In the 2017 election, in the 2017, the last election, October 17, George Weah got 5,900 and I mean 596,037 votes. Black Eye got 446,716. All the other candidates put together got 599,000. The people who did not vote, the people who did not vote amounted to 541,707. So they got more than what Black got, and they got close, very close to. I think the difference in what we have got was just 50,000. That's people who did not.
Mm-hmm.
That's the second thing. In a run of the same thing. But let me tell you what's more important. Invalid votes. Invalid votes were more than what all the other candidates who didn't come there or fourth, I mean, there, second, and first got invalid votes were more than that. Why? Voter education. And the election commission is just telling us that it's just about to start voter education and
Yeah.
about to start training magistrates and about to start training staff to go man the polls and run the election. They're not ready. And then, of course, they tell it, oh, they didn't even have money for a second round. Of course, they are not ready to answer the question you put out there um, earlier. And that's more reason why we need to be concerned and do everything we can because we don't want to go into conflict. We don't want to go back into conflict. But they're not ready.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm looking here on the page. I barely can see anything that making sense here. As I said, up to date information, stuff that's trending that we can pick up on. Except
Mhm.
the website here. The only thing they're talking about 25 days to go. Yeah, 25 days to go to what? What's the preparation for 25 days?
And you,
What is
I'm
the
happy, sorry, I'm not cutting you off. Somebody just mentioned it to me now. He said, I went on the election commission website. There's nothing on that website in terms of update or anything. How do people vote? What constitutes valid and invalid vote? How am I supposed to mark my ballot? There's nothing on their website. I mean, because he's an IT person, he said the website is too clogged and crowded. All the election to be having the jumbo all the information there, you can't find nothing. That's the other thing he pointed out. But you're right. You go on our website, you can't see nothing.
Let's quickly remind folks here we're in the issues room. We will be running up to 8:30 tonight. As I said, Moses is out tonight because he's in Minnesota at the Alger convention. He's president emeritus. Um, he had to make it there. I couldn't make it to this year's convention because of my pending travel to Liberia to cover the elections, representing the issues room in Alger here in the U.S. So again, I'd like to thank all of you for coming through, Fergie. I will probably catch up with you so you can give me some tips here. Flomo Livingstone, good to see you in the house. Jai Eddie, uh, I'd like to say thank you to Raymond S. Clark for joining us here tonight at Diaha Intergise Umo. Congratulations. I saw that your son celebrated his birthday. So wish him happy birthday from the issues room. Emmanuel Jackson, good to see you again, my brother. Maria Gardell, good to see you tonight. Please continue to share the word, invite others to join us here tonight for this conversation that we're holding here, whether our National Elections Commission is ready for October 10. 25 days to go according to them, but is it 25 days toward chaos? Is it 25 days toward corruption? Is it 25 days toward elections violence? Is it 25 days toward rigging the elections? What type of election are we going to have? But as I said, I wanted to play this audio from the late President Doe. President Doe uh, made a speech right after the abortive invasion in 1985. I still remember I was very young, boy. I wouldn't say a man. I was still a boy. I was under 18, so I was a boy uh, when that incident took place, and it really turned the country upside down. And what we're talking about here, elections outcome can lead to long-term issues in any society. Had that election not been rigged as it was presented to be, the international community, in the mittens of the elections commissioner, the late Dr. Emmett Hammond, if he's still alive, I'm just assuming he's not probably around, that the election was rigged, maybe we wouldn't have had our civil war. Doe had turned the country, if Doe had turned the country over to civilian rule 5 years later, as he wanted to go to school, get his PhD, the man had an insatiable thirst for education, for knowledge. And had he followed that path, maybe our country wouldn't have experienced this 1989 senseless war that led us into 2003, demolishing our country, breaking down everything we've built since 1847. Our ordinary civilians and people died with no redress. Today, a TRC is still pending. Uh, so much. So I was just borrowing back from what you said, how elections can be the reason why a country go into civil war. You know, and so let's hear from President Doe, the late President Samuel Doe, when he addressed the nation. I was trying to cue it, but then I hope I'm at that point. But let's hear from him.
I was doing, and the head of state is coming down from the podium. And,
So this is the introduction by the chief of protocol, and he's ascending the podium now. But let me tell you something. Doe had a way. I think he was a powerful speaker in his own way. A powerful speaker, Alphonso.
as you can hear in the background, a round of applause. In fact, it's a standing ovation as the head of state walk up to the podium, dressed in his khaki black hat, and trying to put him head of state.
Mr. Vice President, the International Assembly, Mr. Deputy Vice Head of State, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary General, and members of the International Assembly, Mr. Mr. Chief Justice and members of the Supreme Court, members of the Cabinet, Mr. Chairman and members of the Special Military Tribunal, Mr. Chief of Staff and members of the Armed Forces of Liberia, Mr. Grant and members of the Diplomatic Corps, Mr. Chairman and members of the Special Elections Commission, Superintendent of Counties, Panama clan, chiefs and elders, heads of business houses, prelates, fellow citizens, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We are gratified that you can respond to our invitation to assemble in this great cause today. The historic process which we have embarked upon and the mission we undertook 5 years ago for the liberation and development of this country make us duty-bound to invite you here to review the conditions and development in our country. As we are about to embrace the advent of the new year and to open perhaps the most significant chapter in our power march toward the Second Republic. My fellow citizens, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Almighty God has bestowed manifold blessings upon us, both as a people and as a nation. By His grace, we have survived many obstacles. We want to thank all of you, citizens and friends alike, for your efforts, prayers, and concern in bringing about and maintaining peace and unity in this country. After more than 133 years of independence, the system of government in this country has ceased to be response to the needs and aspirations of the people. Very few people exercise almost absolute rule over the majority of our people. The gap between the government pronouncement and performance increasingly widening. The social contact between the government and the governed was rendered meaningless. Thus, by 1980, the national consensus was that a change in the national leadership was necessary and imperative. Consequently, the having determined that all avenues to peaceful change were closed, the men and women of the armed forces of Liberia, under the leadership of 17 gallant non-commissioned officers, overthrew the True Party government on April 12, 1980, and the great setback it has brought upon the nation. The trials have begun in the Special Military Tribunal of the military personnel involved. Trials of civilian and politicians are to begin in the civilian court as soon as preliminary investigation by the Joint Security are concluded. Considering that the investigation are still continuing, we are not now in a position to make final determination of the fate of all those concerned. For we believe that much as we may be inclined to show act of mercy, it is important to exert the due process. Meanwhile, Based upon security report and consistent with our desire to sustain the reconciliation process, being preached by men and many other citizens, including Bishop George D. Brown and Reverend Peter Amos George, who have decided to order, we have decided to order the immediate release from further detention of the foreign individuals. As up to now, we have not received the warrant for official detention. We, however, request that they remain available to assist with the ongoing investigation if the need arises. 1. Sam E. Machadi, Asitobe, Konkole Zagba, Buama Yabauro, Rufo Mesa, Jim Faya, Tuan Wure, Emmanuel S. Proman, Emmanuel L. Shaw, J. Rudolph Grants, Eric Attorney Brown Sherman, E. H. Brooks, Arne A. Jenkins, and Kwame A. Clement.
So, unmute yourself. So, I wanted to get to that point because what he's talking about here is they overthrew the Talbot government in 1980. 17 enlisted men were commissioned, and he thought that they were taking the country to, prosperity. And surprisingly, they ruled the country for 5 years. Into 1985, he decided to go to the elections. And it's the same thing, Baku, you strong, Baku, you strong. And,
Bagu is strong.
yeah,
Yeah.
Baku, you strong. We can't let the thing go. And so instead of him keeping his first plan, which was to turn the thing over, come to the States, go to school, get his PhD, go back and become a professor, he allowed his boys around him, Baku, you strong, and he decided to rig the elections. So the 85 situation led to the 85 rigging of the elections led to, of course, the abortive evasion led by the late General Thomas Kuangpa, which then led to a lot of people dying. And those were some of the folks he named who were under investigation. And because of the interceding of Bishop George Brown from the Episcopal Church and Peter Amos George from the Providence Baptist Church, he was able to listen because at one time Joe was a member of Providence Baptist Church. In fact, that's the church he used to go to, and Peter Amos George was his pastor. So those were the names that they decided, or the folks they decided to release, but also with support in the investigative process. But I thought to play this because I wanted to hear Doe, and I also thought that he was a powerful speaker in comparison to our current president. And when you look at the two, one was a ninth grader, one claimed to have a master's degree, and both of them ascended to public speaking. And yet we have this guy who was just a phenomenon. But irrespective of his delivery, what happened in that election and what happened afterward, it is the reason why I thought to play this. So it reminds us that when people are breaking one round, when 3 successive elections had to go to a runoff, and only because the incumbent has spent $50 million alleged to campaign, which is still ongoing. When the national elections budget is under $50 million and is underfunded, and they've already said that we don't have money to go to a runoff, when the Supreme Court, the senior Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, is also saying you don't come here with your the fire play talk, because I would throw the case outside. What does it tell you? Isn't that a recipe of what happened in 1985 when you think about it? We're not talking 5 million people then. We're talking what? 3.5 million people then, if I recall our population during that time. 2.5 to 3 million people then. Now we're talking 5.2 so called million people now, according to the Quack, report from the Census Bureau. But it becomes frightening, it becomes compelling to reflect. And that is why I thought to align this in this production here tonight so that we can begin to see and think and ponder it, Alfonso, that nobody should tamper with these elections. This is the make or break of our country. Nobody wants to get to 2029. Everybody wants the best for Liberia, and it's now. And those who are within the helm of leadership, who must be producing and making available fundings that will sustain these elections and make it free, fair, and credible. Instead of flying private jets around the world, $1 million, 100,000 per hour, instead of doing things that are outside of the what we call bread and butter things, the main things, the main crust of things, people need to start thinking. They better go in the coffers, in the closets, all the money they got in places. Like Tower used to do when no money in the economy, he called a minister and he said, "My man, I put money to pay the people because anything happen, that's trouble." He better call
So
his
trouble
man,
can't cry.
yeah. He better call his man now and they start putting money and give it to the elections commission so that they can have money to run these elections free, fair, and credible on October 10th, or also have money to prepare for a runoff.
I can't agree with you enough. One of the critical, first of all, election commission is supposed to be independent. And one of the critical elements of independence in the election commission is having the resources that it controls to do its work. That doesn't exist in this case. The government, which is also running for re-election, is holding the purse strings and by that controlling the election commission. So even let's say the election commission goes ahead and does everything perfectly. There's one thing I had an experience, and that's the first time I heard this concept. I was Justice and Peace Commission. There was this report in Liberia that former President Jimmy Carter took money from Taylor, and was doing whatever he did because he got money and diamond from Taylor. You know what the Carter Center did? They sent people from here to Liberia to investigate, but also to do an assessment, to interview Liberians to gauge the perception. I was one of the people they interviewed.
Hmm.
And the young lady asked me, and I said, I don't think that former President Carter took money. Knowing his character, he wouldn't take money and whatever from Taylor, whatever. But it's the perception. She said, exactly. But that is the perception we are here to address. I'm saying this to say it's two things. Volcano can be the perfect person walking around here today. But if for some reason the public believes that Volcano is affiliated with people who are, selling drugs or whatever, that's the public perception. And that young lady told me perception is really higher and greater than the truth and then the facts. So two things here. One, we want the election to be free, fair, and democratic. Two, we want the public to perceive it to be free, fair, and democratic. If any one of those elements are missing, that's also a recipe for conflict and violence. Because it's about people's belief. You're not going to put numbers together to convince people if they don't believe it. It's
Mhm.
about the belief. And how do we address the perception? Transparency. Be open. Let the people see what you're doing. That's one of the ways. The other way you do it is through everything we just talked about. 362,000 people did not register, who were eligible to register to vote, did not register. Why? We had a biometric voter registration process where people were supposed to go on their phones or on computer and pre-register. How many people had that access? How long did that process even last? Did people have enough time to go and register? How about the people in the area? I've seen videos where I think one of the videos was in 70 seconds, which is in Monrovia. The solar panel they took there for people to register, the solar panel was not functioning, it broke down, so people couldn't register. One woman had to bring her generator to help them to register. Some of the people who were in line said that waste of time and they left. Now, I'm going back to this because you were talking about to validate the point you're making. The process starts from all the way over there.
Mhm.
Voter registration. You disenfranchise people. 362,000 people. Now you don't get money to do second round. Now you're not doing voter education. Now people are going and registering people and say, "Oh, come here, bring your first-time voters here." You know why they focus on the first-time voters? Those are the people who don't have record. Those are the people who ages they can't determine because we ain't get national ID system or social security in order to determine when the person was born. The person just walked there say 18-year-old. How can you debate or argue that? So that is part of the reason. First time voter, those are some of the reasons. And people see these things and people know these things. And people will get angry and do whatever that we cannot control. So you are absolutely right. And again, I keep pounding this on. Early warning signs are on the wall. We can't ignore those early warning signs. Then when something happens, then we say, "Oh, yeah, yeah," like we do it in Liberia. It's better to discuss these things now so we address them before they blow up in our faces. And that's very, very important to do. And I hope the stakeholders, the decision makers, the policy makers like NEC, the political parties, etc., are looking at it. Quickly, let me just end right here. Volcano, when the international community said, when they issued their statements on the election in Sierra Leone and the election in Nigeria, there was one critical point that they made, the tabulation process. So they bring all of the vote numbers from the various polling places and they bring them to tabulation centers. That's where votes can get changed and problem can happen. In Sierra Leone, they didn't allow people in. The commission itself did. Remember what happened in the 85 election? They brought the votes and they took it to the Unity Conference Center and appointed a group to count the votes there. That's where the votes were changed. It's the same thing that happened in Sierra Leone, same thing that happened in Nigeria. And of course, we have a history in Liberia. We had our war, the invasion that you played, and then Doe spoke later. And then, of course, I guess his statement for reconcile. How do you reconcile with people when you just abuse them? So the reconciliation didn't land. So the people went to war. It's it's an important point that I think this edition of the issue will raise.
But let's also add in this part. Let's look at and consider the first time voters. It's an experience that these young people have waited for the formative years.
Yeah.
And then you come to it and it is marred by all of these irregularities. That experience in itself, you know, doesn't provide the kind of appetite for future elections. You know, and I'm just thinking of like that. I'm sitting here like a child who's looking forward to Christmas for his first Christmas, and the preparation for that Christmas is so poor. And no one can tell me that we didn't know we'll have had elections 6 years later. We knew it from the
Absolutely.
onset. We are coming to power,
You plan.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, with the census, it was unpredictable because why? They could like they stalled for those years up to when it was done this year, right?
Yeah.
But the election is a timetable that we set, and you whether you like it or not, otherwise we'll go to war. So you got to have that election. You can delay census all you want, but you must have election. So they knew these things were on the horizon. The preparation, that money was supposed to be the first thing that we are here boys and put aside. So man, if people think we can mess with it, we can do our stealing, but for the most part, let's put the people election money one side. But the Elections Commission is saying that, oh, we ain't got enough, oh, and they're giving us small, small. So that's my fear here. But now let's come to these oppositions. All the running around they themselves doing, they're not even making this a case. They're not even imploring on the international community and the government to say, listen, in as much as we trust in this process, an elections commission that is underfunded is a recipe for disaster. So we are sounding our voice out here, our voices out here, and we're calling on the government to make do on its obligation. This is not promise. This is obligation, mandatory obligation. But I'm not hearing any of them talking. And then when they get to October 10 now, then they'll start saying, oh, but they were not even ready from the beginning. But you already know that ain't ready from the beginning, and you're not making any effort to begin to have this conversation, Alfonso.
Yep. And you're right. The opposition, political parties, Liberian civil society organizations are not playing their part either. When I talked about Leon earlier, Leon was not political party. Leon was Justice and Peace Commission. It was the PUL. It was how do you call it, the Women's Group. It was enough youth organizations that came together that formed Leon and that made sure that voter education started earlier, voter registration went on well, etc. So yes, civil society has a role to play. I do not think they're playing a role either, or at least to that extent. Of course, political parties have a stake in the process, so they should do even more. They're not doing it. I just saw 2 weeks ago, I saw political parties, so-called opposition, political party issue a statement saying that they will jointly monitor the election and they'll start training people. Are you kidding me? You just about to start training monitors to go to the polls? Where will you be training those monitors? In Monrovia and then place them in the various counties? So let's say Volcano who live in GSA Road or in Lane GSA Road. Now you train him Monrovia election monitor. You're saying no Lofa. Does he even know a way around Lofa and where to go and where not to go? They should have already trained people or started training people in those counties, in those local areas where the people live. Train people who are familiar with the terrain and the territory. Train people who know people who live in those districts. If you want to counter, for example, people flooding in and voting illegally in those countries. Let me conclude on this. 27, I mean, 1997 election. It was me, it was Ibrahim Masale, it was Steve Wilson, it was somebody else, and it was this guy, Dave Peterson for National Endowment for Democracy. We came from Monrovia, drove to Rawafi, through Rawafi Highway, went through Firestone, went to Kakata, and went to Salah. I can tell you that because the so-called opposition political parties that were running that time didn't have people at polling places outside of Monrovia,
Mhm.
here's what happened. I personally, at three polling places, one on the Rawafi Highway and one in Bond County, saw ECOMO soldiers casting ballots On the Rubber Free Highway, I tried to intervene and said, no, you can't do this. And the American guy, Dave Peterson from the National Endowment for Democracy, grabbed my shirt and pulled me back and said, we are monitors. That's not our role. We are independent monitors, not our role. We
Mm.
just supposed to we just supposed to document.
You jot down, yeah.
Yeah,
Don't,
document and
don't,
go.
don't, don't go for it.
Don't go for it. So leave it. But you know why that was happening? Opposition political parties were not represented there because they have a stake. They could have stood up. It's a down role. It's the opposition political party role. I've lost so many friends across Africa. I don't want to lose anymore. Leave it alone. I'm making this point to validate your point once. Even our opposition political parties don't seem to be ready. And as you said, they want to do it the Liberian way. When everything chocolate, then they start making out where Chicha will do there, will go to the Supreme Court and this that. Instead of prevention, which they said a stitch in time saves nine. We
Hmm.
want to wait until the whole traffic bus before we start looking for a needle to solve the whole traffic that which will take a longer time. So again, it's an important point you're making, and I hope the Liberian people are paying attention and trying to guide the process.
Let me throw this out here too and see here. Do I have the right thing here? Okay, there we go. All right. So I think I pick up on how to enlarge my zoom in small. Okay.
Yo, you did. Okay, great. I gotta be learning from you, man.
Man,
I
I small
struggle
small.
with these technical
I
stuff
small
as
small.
well.
So these are the candidates here for uh in fact I think it's to the last. These are the candidates, okay, um, who are supposed to be seeking the presidency with their vice standard bearers. So I don't know how many people know about all these 20 people we've been talking about here, but yeah, the people in here that want to take over the country. All right. So we start with, I think it's in alphabetical order. So the name is Edward W. Appleton Jr. He is a presidential candidate from the party called Grassroots Development Movement. And his vice running with him is Alex G. Gonti. Then we have number two. Now, when I say number two, don't mean that the number they're going by according to the ballot. Joseph Yuma Boakai, Unity Party, Jeremiah K. Kwon Sr., his running mate. We have Alan.
Volcano, 1 second. I think that that's actually their placement on the ballot.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's go with that. Then uh Alan R. Brown Jr. is running as president for the Liberia Restoration Party. And his vice running mate is Nuzvet Weah. Wow. I didn't know that. I know Nuzvet.
Oh,
Um
really?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, young woman. She had a program, I believe, on King's FM called, she called herself counselor. I don't know what that program was called, but a counselor or something. I didn't even pay attention to that. So she's his vice running mate, Liberia Restoration Party. Then Alexander Cummings and Charlene Bromskin uh, are with the collaborating political parties. So they're not going as ANC, they're going as CPP. Then Simeon Freeman. And Simeon Freeman has been running behind this thing forever, right? He's from the Movement for Progress, or
yep.
rather Progressive Change, the MPC. And his running mate is James K. Barkley. Then we have, of course, Tiawan Se Gonglo from the Liberians People Party. And his running mate we had here the other night, Dr. Emmanuel Yakpawolo, who is running with him. We have Lucini F. Kamara Sr., who is from the All Liberian Coalition Party, ALCOP, and that was ALCOP, I think was uh, Alhaji Kraman's party, if you recalled. Um,
Yeah.
and his running mate is Matthew Vize Dablo Sr. Then we also have David G.B. Kiamu. Mr. Kiamu is running as president for the Democratic People's Party of Liberia. His running mate is called Annie Watuazama. Then we have Alexander N. Colley. Alexander Colley is running for president with the Reformers National Congress, and his running mate is called Grace Yancey Yuan. Then we have Sheikh A. Kuyate, who's running as president with the Liberia First Movement, and his running mate is Max O. Vagbili, and that's the party called Liberia First Movement. Uh, then we go down to Alima Bendu Kroma, who is running as independent, and her running mate is Thomas Krua. Then we have Richard Said Miller. Richard Said Miller is running as president for Liberians for Prosperity, the LFP party. His running mate is called Emiki Slawon Jr. or Emiki Slawon Jr. Then, of course, we have Clarence K. Monimba running as president for LANU, the Liberia National Union, the party of his late father, Dr. Henry Fumba Monimba. And his vice running mate is Grace T. Kwan. Then we have Robert Franz Morris, who is running as independent. And his running mate is Cecile Coffee Brown, running as vice president. Then we have Sarah Beslo Yananti, who is running as president of the African Liberation League, ALL, all. Her running mate is Senior MB Moreba. We also have Weah William Twitter. Mr. William Twitter is running with the party called Democratic National Allegiance. His running mate is Jonah S. Dumo. Then we have Joshua Tom Turner, who is running as president with New Liberia Party. His running mate is Soma Pegai. Then, of course, Bakuyu Strong, George Mane Weah, Coalition for Democratic Change. His running mate is Joel Howard Tiller. Then we have Jeremiah Z. Wapo. He's running for the party or with the party called Vision for Liberia Transformation, VOLT. His running mate is Erasmus D. Fambulai. And then finally we have Luther Yofi, president of Liberia Rebuilding Party. His running mate is Juvenile C. Pearson. So those are the 20 people that won't take the country come October 10, Alphonso. Because I'm sure a lot of people, and most of the people, I don't even know them, my man. I
No.
know of them. I don't
As
know
you,
them, and I don't know of them.
I tell you,
And and, and,
as you were reading their name, I was just laughing.
and there were 46 political parties.
Yeah.
They were able to water it down to 20 candidates. So imagine there were 46.
Oh my God. Yeah. So Liberian politics, the way it is structured, encourages these kinds of things. People go to the race knowing they won't win, but they go into the race because they want to in the second round say, I pledge my vote to you. And in exchange, they get ministerial positions, director positions, superintendent positions, those
Hmm.
kinds. I hopefully we overcome that. As I said one time somewhere, I believe on this show or somewhere else, America has several political parties. But given the restrictions or the requirements, I should say, in each state, a lot of these parties don't make it up to the national level because of the restrictions there. Occasionally, you see a Green Party make it, you see a Libertarian Party make it up to the national stage, but the restrictions prevent it. So it is my hope that we get to the point where the structure, the system eliminates some of these political parties and they can just remain down there.
Hmm.
They can run for a House of Representatives, Senator. That incentive of saying, I will join the race so Weah can come to me and give me $50,000 or $100,000 and declare my support, or so Baka can promise me job and I declare my support. I'm hoping we get rid of that. And it will happen over time. Even though Liberia is more than 100 years old, close to 200 years old, to be honest, we don't have a strong democratic culture. For over 160, 167 years, it was one party state turning government over from one person to the next. The first real multi-party open elections that was held in Liberia was in 1985. Unfortunately, that was rigged, according to people who were there and by international observers and all of that. But that was our first real open multi-party. Everything else we had before then, remember, well, 1927,
But
when CDB,
interestingly, and interestingly, while you
yeah,
laying your points out here, the man who
yeah,
overthrew the government, the 17 men that overthrew the government for the same purpose of
yeah,
a one-party state, right? And this president
absolutely,
who opened up the corridor for multi-party, he comes in the first election that should have been the
yeah,
trendsetter for
yeah,
peace and prosperity of the country. He what? Rigged it.
eh, yes.
Samuel
So
Doe
I would,
rigged the
yes,
elections that should have
mm,
been the first, most rather, democratic elections in the country.
yes, and
Had he not
Samuel,
done that, we wouldn't be where
yeah,
we are. People will
I
not be
agree.
playing with the president and say, "Where are the 20 people there? Some of them we even know that." That joke here, right?
Lobo levels, know that, but we're not supposed to know that. But
1980 did nothing for Liberia in hindsight. If you look at it,
so there's a book written by a guy who I became friends with later. It's called The Promise Betrayed. Um, I say historically there are two promises betrayed in Liberia. Liberia, when the settlers of slaves left from here and went back, that was a promise to form Liberia on the same or similar principles as America was founded. America was founded by people who fled England and
yeah.
the control of the king, and they came here and founded a free country. Liberia's promise, first promise, was for free slaves who experienced slavery and were now free to go back to Africa, where they came from, and form the first democratic free country for black people. That was our first promise. Unfortunately, that promise was betrayed. We didn't realize. We could have been competing with America and other people today. We could have founded the United States of America is not one country. America is a continent. That's why it's powerful. They brought everybody together. They bought territories from France and other people. What do you think Hawaii can run Hawaii that Asian people go to Louisiana? They bought it from the French people. Go there to speak. There's French Quarter in Louisiana today. They wanted a continent because they understood that a big
Yeah, they even bought
country.
the whole of New York from Netherlands because
Absolutely.
New York used to be called
The
Netherlands.
Dutch something. Yeah, yeah. They were Holland. They were what? So when you see those places, you see, yeah, you're right. The
New
Dutch
Amsterdam. In fact,
people,
New Amsterdam
New
was New York's
Amsterdam.
cousin.
Thank
Yeah.
you. The Dutch people owned New York. Absolutely. They drove, how do you call it? The so-called, they called
And
native
you know
Indians.
what? You know what bothers me, Alfonso? If we were the first independent country in Africa, how the hell we so small? We sat down there and let the French and the Portuguese just came there and told. Because, like you said, we could have
Yeah.
Liberia could have covered the whole of West Africa,
Yes.
the whole of West Africa before the demarcation took
Yes.
place after World War I or two, one of those wars when they started to scramble for Africa. Liberia could have been situated, but the
Yeah.
same premise.
So we
The
one,
mind was the
we did not have a European American superpower protecting us. The Europeans then started scrambling for territory in Africa. So France
but,
came.
but but
So,
but come back to the recognition of our independence.
yeah,
America did not. It was
no,
Britain,
no, no.
France, and Germany, right?
They did before America.
That's what I'm saying. So yes, if we had taken more land, they were gonna recognize us.
Do you know that in Liberia we were colonized briefly by Britain and our people were using the pound shilling? Yes,
Yeah.
our people are using the pound shilling. Go back and read it. Um, there's a guy who was at the University of Indiana. What's his name? J. Gus Lavina. He the one even brought Sawyer and Sawyer and Sawyer were professor at the University of Indiana because of J. Gus Lavina. He is a professor who studied Liberia. He wrote several books on Liberia. I encourage listeners to look for J. Gus Lavina and read his books. It's a contrast from what we read, Mateo Newport, all of these things. He tells the true story. And he's an American white man who was teaching at the University of Indiana. But that's exactly the point. I come from the Southeast. The place they call from Taboo and all of those places up to San Pedro. Ivory Coast did not develop those places because there's a Liberia cornerstone planter in those places. If you drove from Hapo and went to Taboo and went to San Pedro, and you will see the signpost Liberia. It was because, in fact, when the coup happened, Ivory Coast thought that Liberia would have gone for that territory. When we didn't go for it, that's when they started developing and building places. That's part of Liberia. The French came and took that whole part of Liberia. If you also understand, Maryland was a territory, a country of its own.
No, no, yeah.
Maryland joined Liberia because Maryland was being threatened by France to be taken over. So to have that something because I mean go through Harper, you just drive, you cross the road in Taboo, you in other places, you go to San Pedro. So that is the reason why one of the reasons why Maryland joined Liberia for their protection purposes. Again, we were not protected from America. We were not, and we didn't have any superpower like Western power protecting us. So that was a limitation that Liberia had. We didn't have army to fight those people. I remember my pap used to tell me that in the Second World War, I think Liberia decided to join the Allied forces. And what's his name? Hitler was looking for Liberia, and then on the map, but his thumb covered Liberia. He was looking for Liberia to bomb Liberia. He holding the map like this, but his thumb covered Liberia, so he couldn't see Liberia. That's a myth people tell. So that's the reason why they didn't come to bomb Liberia.
And
That's
accordingly, he bombed Iberia because there was a place
yes.
called Iberia. I don't know how true is that story, but
We don't know, but that's myth. That's legend, and we live with it. But
So
yes,
Alfonso, man, we hit the mark. So
yeah,
let's tease what type of country is this tonight? I
yeah.
My man, you gotta come out here. Don't leave me alone in the thing. All right,
I'm here, my brother. I will
folks.
help you.
Folks, we say thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Flo Livingston, thank you. Charles Howard, Data Charlie, my man, good to see you.
Dada Charlie, where you been, my man?
Come on, Data Charlie, man,
Yeah,
man on his own operation.
I know.
Elizabeth Bowen, thanks for coming in tonight. Mohammed Kroman, Ahmad Firma, and you guys. So, I mean, what type of country is this? As small as the country is, the country's population allegedly is 5.2 million, but we only have a little over 2 million people voting. But we got 20 political parties, 20 presidential candidates. What type of country is this? And some of them we even know them. What type of country is this?
What type of country is this? Is it true though? I saw a video said the president heading to the UN General Assembly. When is the assembly?
I mean, and not sometime around this time. Listen,
They said
this
the man leaving coming now. They said the man coming now. I heard.
man, the man acting like he never traveled before, my man.
60. Wow, 64 people, 66 people is coming with. Other than got to be in hotel and be paying the charter some kind of private jet. Are you kidding me? What type of country is it? Meanwhile, civil servants have been taking pay. Oh my God.
What type of country is this? If you pay the people, then you say them go stay online to vote.
Yes,
You know, vote for you.
you
You
force them to
like,
wear t-shirt. Oh, a volcano, hold on. You know what I heard? They're telling the people to take picture of their ballot to prove that they actually voted for them.
oh, I wanna be one now.
So as you go, you finish marking the ballot, take picture.
That you voted for Weah.
Yeah, you voted for us. That's what they're
Otherwise,
telling you.
otherwise no job.
Why you don't have your job.
Flomo Livingston, what type of country is this? Hashtag that NEC haven't started voter education and we're here 25 days left.
Yes.
What type of country is this?
Yes.
What type of country is this that the National Elections Commission is crying no money, no money, and yet nobody paying attention? And the government has an obligation.
Yeah.
Charles Howard said he hope that power will be at the airport when we are go there to take off. Power will be there, Charlie, because we're selling current to Burkina Faso,
And
Ivory
Ivory
Coast.
Coast. But we using solar panel to put laying our own country. What type of country is this?
What type of country is this? The opposition themselves just low like they scared. Nobody
They're
talking.
scared. They're scared.
They're
Nobody
scared.
talking. Because right
You
now,
want to tell me 19 people against one man? You're scared?
yeah. Volcano, let me tell you. I think we're in the 80s, mid 80s and stuff when they were in power. There was one old man they called Cephas A. Bandi.
I remember that name.
Yeah, I remember that. That old man used to go to court, Supreme Court, to sue the Justice Ministry to do its job, to sue the Election Commission to do its job. Do your job. That's why you're supposed to be doing. You're not doing it. We sue you, then the court is forced to make them to do their job. Where's the opposition? Why aren't they forcing the Election Commission to do its job? Why aren't they forcing the police to do its job? They are absent. They're missing themselves.
I saw 50-50 with T Max and Louis Brown was there and he was talking. I mean, he has some strong points, but again, you know, that's it. He
That's it.
said there can be no way that we are will rig the election. If you're thinking about it, he should think again. You know, but we're talking about the real people, those 19 people.
Yep.
All the other candidates, my man. So in the candidates say the only people I heard Sarah Beslow. I wanted to play something from her, but I couldn't get it to transpose. I've heard Moneyba and the other four. The other name that I was calling down that list, I have not heard any of those people. I don't even know what the voice sound like.
To be honest, I had not even seen that list, so I I agree with you. I had not even heard from them either. Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
What type of country is this?
Yeah. 2 million people, 20 candidates. Some of them, no, they can't go nowhere, but they just jump in the race to make noise.
Is it history making or I ran for president?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
For a lot of them, I don't think history will record their names.
Yeah. Oh, I ran for president. Oh.
Yeah. They
I
will
ran
be
for
they're the one
president in the 2023 election. But that, if that
they're
the
the
case,
one who be
then myself got to register for the next election.
yeah,
Just put my
well,
name.
they're the
That
one who be telling people. History will not even remember that. They have to remember to tell people because it makes no sense. You know?
Yeah, but Alfonso, my man, let's call it a night. It's Friday,
Yep.
people got a lot of things to do. Uh,
Absolutely.
and I'd like to thank our viewership tonight. Thanks to everyone who hung out here with us. I know you got your things to do. There are a lot of happenings. It's the summer has wrapped up and we're heading into this fall. It kind of getting a little cool here and there. Today was a beautiful weather. It was just a cut through a balance between cool and and hot, and it was
And
just
how
so perfect, man, perfect. So we're gonna be experiencing these in these coming days. But regrettably, I'm gonna leave this good fall weather. My favorite weather in the U.S. is the fall. But I'm gonna leave it and go to LIB where the mud and the Ottawa rain and all the other things that will be happening. But that country
absolutely.
that love for
When
country.
you get there, when you
Mhm.
get there, you must go in my area, man. Go to River G, go to Grand Crew.
How will get it? Go to, the president is second. Go to Grand Prix passing all around the world. He want the airplane that me will go there.
Go to my birthplace in Grand Crew and then go to River G where my child live from and then take some picture and bring it back.
Yeah, but guys, thank you so much. We'll have one more production on Tuesday next week, by the grace of God, and we'll continue our broadcast from LIB. We'll cover all of the events. We pray for security. We pray for prosperity. We pray for blessing. We pray that they might just respect the international issues room. We will report as balanced as possible. We'll call speed spade. We'll tell the truth and nothing but the truth. So help us God. Okay.
we,
That's all.
we will hire security for you as a plan when it comes.
Wherever we see good, we'll tell the good. And when we see bad, we'll tell the bad. You know, this is not new to us. We've worked in more hostile situation than this. We're talking about a civil war, right?
Absolutely.
The arrangement of our time as professional journalists when we're working in the days of the 90s.
Of the Civil War. Yep.
Yeah. The heyday. So then when I just beginning trying to be zealots,
Yep. That's it.
trying to maintain themselves in their little position so they hype. They didn't see it yet. They didn't see it yet. But we would be there to make sure that we bring the truth to the world. Um, and I will hope to have the opportunity to interview some of those newsmakers, some of those presidential candidates. Let's bring them to the world. Let's talk with them. because we don't know y'all. Yesterday, I even Commies who is number 3 in the race. The people still said they didn't know Commies. Then there's some of y'all who came there. Don't need our calling. Tell me now, Mr. Nyenuh, those names I was calling. Eh?
I swear,
The
I
people still
just,
say that coming if
I
it's
checked.
strong.
Yep, I
Then
had not seen that list. I had not seen that list. So as you were saying the names, that's when I was hearing the names for the first time. Yep.
yeah. But by the grace of God, everything will go well. We just pray that the Elections Commission will do its work, and the government will put the money there. The opposition need to talk the international community wherever they can meet, the government halfway, if possible. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah.
Everyone is vested in it, and we just want to make sure the best happens for Liberia. The last time we're talking, whatever happens for Liberia, we'll still survive. The people survive through these years; they will still survive. It's just that
Yeah.
we just think that our country could be better than this, and that's what we're hoping for. You know, and let's see what October 10th gives the Liberian people. Alfonso, good to see you, my man. We'll catch up here Tuesday by the grace of God. Moses will be back, and we'll retool. But I thought it was a good conversation, just looking at the preparedness of the NEC, and we have 25 days to go.
My brother, I'm very happy to be here. I think this was a great conversation. And I hope the NEC people, the government of Liberia, the political parties, the civil society, everybody takes heed, takes note of this conversation, and do what is required. Um, and of course, as Liberians, let's play our role, including calling on them to do what they ought to do, and also praying, as Adia Omo also just said. But let's hold them accountable. And I think the issues room does a great job of raising the issues so that the Liberian people can do their job of voting their representatives.
Thank
Good
you.
night, brother. Yep.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good
Yep.
night. Let me just run this list down quick. Charles Howard, thanks for coming here tonight. Adiaha Omo, of course, you spent time with us all the way from the land down under. I know the time difference, but you always make it your duty to join us here. We appreciate your viewership. Marilla Moore, haven't seen you in a while. You disappeared. Anyway, good to see you again tonight. Flomo Livingstone, thank you, my brother, for always being here. 25 days to go to see what will happen for our country. Elizabeth Bowen, good seeing you. Manet Sumbo from Crystal, Minnesota. Fredja Moyu, of course. Ja Eddie, Mohammed Kroman, Raymond S. Clark, Emmanuel Jackson, Maria Gardell. Thank you all for being here with us tonight. God's willing, we'll be back here on Tuesday. See you again. Volcano Shelton on behalf of Alphonso Nyenuh and Moses Sandy. This is the 185th broadcast of the Issues Room here on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and our Issues Room page. Good night, folks. Thank you.